The first time she looked at me like that, I forgot how to breathe. It wasn't even supposed to mean anything, just a glance across a narrow kitchen, sunlight cutting through half-closed blinds, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence that neither of us dared to break. But there was something in her eyes that morning, something that stayed long after I looked away. Claire, my girlfriend's sister. She moved like someone used to being noticed, but not often touched, a grace that came with knowing her own space and never asking permission to fill it. Her hair was tied up, but strands kept falling loose, brushing her neck in a way that made it hard to focus on anything else. She laughed softly when I tried to help her with the coffee maker, as if my fumbling was both endearing and unnecessary. "You're pressing too hard," she said, reaching past me to show how it's done. Her wrist brushed my arm. Just a second, too small to mean anything, too long to forget. The room smelled faintly of cinnamon and something floral she must have sprayed earlier. It didn't suit the kitchen, too elegant for chipped tiles and a sink that leaked when you looked at it wrong. But suited her. I remember trying to find something to say, anything that didn't sound as nervous as I felt. "You, always up this early?" She smiled slow, almost private. "You get used to it when you stop pretending you're still in your 20s. I didn't answer. She was teasing, but there was a hint of something behind it, a kind of tired warmth. She didn't look at me this time. She looked at the coffee, waiting for it to drip, her fingers tapping lightly on the counter. I caught myself watching her hand, the way her nails were short, unpolished, the way her thumb brushed her ring finger, like a habit she didn't realize she had. Then she turned to me again. That look, calm, measured, but carrying a question she didn't ask out loud. "Does she know you're awake this early?" "No," I said. My voice came out quieter than I meant. "She doesn't know a lot of things, does she?" There was no accusation in her tone, just observation, like she'd been watching me longer than I'd noticed. The words landed somewhere between a whisper and a test. I didn't know how to answer, so I didn't. I reached for my mug instead, pretending to check the heat. The coffee was still too hot, but it gave me something to do with my hands. Claire stepped closer, close enough for the air between us to shift, close enough for me to smell her perfume again, this time warmer, mixed with the scent of toast. She didn't touch me. She didn't need to. Her voice dropped, barely above a murmur. "You should drink it before it gets cold." When I looked up, she was already watching me. Her eyes didn't move away this time. Neither did mine. The sound of footsteps came from the hallway, soft, uneven, approaching. Claire turned her head, but only slightly, her gaze still fixed on me. Then, almost imperceptibly, she smiled, that same unreadable smile that made my pulse stumble. And just before the door opened, she said under her breath, "You might want to act normal now." When I saw her again later that evening, something between us had shifted, not enough to name, but enough to notice. Claire was sitting on the porch, a glass of wine balanced on her knee, staring out into the dusk. The air smelled like rain, heavy and close. I hesitated in the doorway longer than I should have. She didn't look up right away. "You can come out, you know," she said, her tone dry but soft. "I don't bite." I sat beside her, leaving a polite space between us. The old wooden step creaked under my weight. We watched the street in silence, the kind of silence that feels alive, like it's waiting for one of you to ruin it. She took a slow sip of wine. "You're quiet," she said finally. "I guess I don't know what to say around you," I admitted before I could stop myself. That made her turn. Her lips curved faintly. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because then I'll start paying attention." The words landed somewhere between a tease and a warning. I laughed softly, mostly to cover how my stomach tightened. It was strange how quickly she could make me feel seen. My own girlfriend, her sister, was kind, predictable, everything my age was supposed to want. But Claire, she carried a quiet loneliness that made everything she did feel deliberate, like she was rationing how much of herself the world got to see. Maybe that's why I couldn't stop watching her. "I was married once," she said suddenly, like she was continuing a conversation we hadn't started. "He left after 13 years. Said I'd gotten too comfortable." She smiled a little, but it didn't reach her eyes. Imagine that, being left for not trying hard enough to be interesting. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell her she didn't need to try, that even the way she breathed seemed to pull the air toward her. But I just nodded, staring at my hands. The porch light flickered. She reached over, brushing a loose thread from my sleeve. The touch was small, barely there, but it lingered, her fingers tracing a little too long before she pulled back. "Sorry," she murmured. "It's okay." Her eyes met mine again, and this time neither of us looked away. The sound of rain started then, soft against the railing, and she moved her hand just slightly, enough that our fingers rested against each other. Not holding, not even touching fully, just close enough that I could feel her warmth. "I shouldn't be here," I said, though I didn't move. "No," she agreed quietly. "You shouldn't." But she didn't move either. The rain grew steadier, washing the streetlights into blurs of gold. She sighed a long, trembling breath, and for a heartbeat, it felt like we were suspended between something fragile and inevitable. Then a door opened inside the house. Voices, laughter. We both froze. Her hand slipped away. But before she hid it all behind that calm, careful smile again, she said under her breath, almost to herself, "You make it hard to be careful." The tension had been building all week. Small glances, careful silences, and that feeling of standing too close without a reason. That night it broke. Claire was in the kitchen again, barefoot on the cool tile, her hair loose this time, damp from shower. The air smelled faintly of soap and red wine. I'd come downstairs for water, but she turned at the sound of my footsteps, and suddenly I wasn't thirsty anymore. "You're still awake," I said. The next morning should have been ordinary. But it wasn't. Claire was quiet through breakfast, her usual calm replaced with something brittle. She didn't meet my eyes once. Her sister chatted easily beside her, laughing at something on her phone, oblivious to the silence between us that felt too heavy for the room. When she finally stood to clear her plate, Claire's hand brushed mine, not by accident, not quite deliberate either. Her fingers trembled. Then, without looking up, she said, "Can we talk later?" The words landed like a warning. It wasn't until that afternoon that I understood why. I was in the backyard when her sister came out, holding a half-folded note. "Did you leave this?" she asked. Her tone was casual, but her brows were drawn together. I shook my head, but when she handed it to me, my chest tightened. It wasn't my handwriting. It was Claire's. A single line. "We need to stop before someone gets hurt." My girlfriend's voice was still light. "She's been acting strange lately. You notice? Maybe she's just tired," I said. My throat was dry. She shrugged, then went back inside, humming. The second she was gone, I found Claire in the laundry room, folding towels that didn't need folding. Her movements were sharp, too precise. "You left a note," I said quietly. She froze, the towel slipping from her hands. She saw it. She showed me. Her shoulders sank. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked afraid. "I thought if I ended it before it started, maybe it wouldn't matter," she said. "But I can't seem to make that true." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Claire, what are you scared of?" She turned then, finally looked at me. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't blink. "I heard her on the phone last night. She told someone she thinks you're getting distant, that she's worried I don't like you." A humorless laugh slipped out. If only she knew. The confession cracked something open in both of us. I reached for her, instinct not thought. She didn't pull away this time. Her hands gripped my shirt like she needed something as the house was quiet when I went to her that night. The kind of quiet that hums, like the world is holding its breath. Claire was waiting in the dim light of the living room, sitting by the window with her knees drawn up, her face turned toward the dark yard outside. The clock ticked, steady and loud. She didn't move when I stepped closer. "You came," she said, not turning. I said I would. Her voice was calm, but there was a tremor underneath. "You shouldn't have." "I know." We stayed like that for a moment, her watching the night, me watching her. The distance between us was a question neither of us wanted to answer. Finally, she stood. "I don't know what I thought would happen," she said quietly. "Maybe I just wanted to see if you'd come." She stepped closer, bare feet silent on the rug. When she stopped, we were only inches apart. I could feel the warmth radiating off her, the faint scent of her shampoo, the rise and fall of her breath. "I can't keep pretending this doesn't feel like something," I said. Her eyes searched mine, desperate and steady all at once. You think I don't feel it? Her voice cracked, soft, raw. Every time you walk into a room, it's like my chest forgets what to do. I almost reached for her then, but she shook her head, eyes shining. If we do this, we can't go back. I don't want to go back. She exhaled, a shaky sound that was half laugh, half sigh. You don't know what you're giving up. Maybe not, I said, but I know what I'm walking toward. She closed her eyes, and I saw the war behind her eyelids, the part that wanted to step away, the part that couldn't. When she opened them again, she took a small step forward. Her hand came up, slow, hesitant, resting against my face. Her thumb brushed my jaw, trembling just slightly. I've spent years being careful, she whispered. Years watching everything fall apart slowly enough that no one noticed. And then you showed up, and suddenly I can't breathe right. Her words hit something deep, and all I could do was stand there, breathing in the same air, the same silence. My hand found her wrist, not to pull her closer, but to keep her there, suspended in that impossible space between right and wrong. Our foreheads almost touched. I could feel her breath on my lips, uneven, warm. The sound of the clock filled the room, loud enough to hurt. Then she whispered, barely audible, "Tell me to stop." I didn't. Her breath hitched, one small sound that broke the stillness. And just when the world seemed to tilt towards something irreversible, she stepped back. A single, shuddering step. Morning light slipped through the curtains, soft and forgiving. The air still carried the quiet from a night before. That heavy, trembling silence that follows something almost said. Claire was already in the kitchen when I came down, her hair tied back, sleeves rolled up. She looked ordinary again, calm, but the way she glanced up when I entered told me nothing about last night had been erased. We didn't speak at first. The smell of coffee filled the room. She poured a mug and slid it toward me without asking how I took it. "You didn't sleep?" I said. She shook her head, a small, tired smile tugging at